Hi, welcome to the Brocade Campus Feature Explainer Series. I'm Terry Henry. We are going to look at HP Aruba Provision to Brocade ICX migration, and in this case we're going to look at basic OSPF configuration. So there is another video on basic VLAN with IP helper and IP addresses on the VLANs, and a basic RIP configuration video, but this one is basic OSPF, so pretty common scenario, and you'll see how very similar our command lines really are. So if we look on the left hand side, this is the Procurve configuration. I didn't create this, I pulled it directly off the HP website on their example configurations, and then I built the equivalent ICX configuration. So first thing, this is a 5304XL, so it's a chassis. So the port numbers you'll notice are like A1, B1, etc. So they use their slot numbers are letters. So as opposed to ours, which are numbers for the slots, but otherwise it's the same equivalent. So first thing we do is config T. We're going to assign a host name, which of course is optional. And so this is exactly the same. So this is the ICX side, config T, host name, switch underscore A. So absolutely identical configuration so far. Then we create this VLAN 10. So VLAN 10, we're untagging slot 1, port 1, and then we're assigning an IP address to it. So in our case, this is slightly different on the ICX side. We use something called a router interface. So we create that VLAN 10. I assign unit 1, slot 1, port 1, untagged to that VLAN, so the same equivalent that they did. And then rather than putting the IP address right on the VLAN, we create a router interface called VE10, and then later on we go into interface VE10 and assign the IP address to it. So the next thing they do on the HP side, they turn on IP routing. We don't need to turn on IP routing. As soon as you do a router OSPF, the device assumes you want to route, so there's really no need to turn on IP routing. So that's just something you leave out. So then router OSPF to turn it on, area 0000, and then redistribute connected. They want to redistribute those connected interfaces into OSPF. So our equivalent, we go to router OSPF, we do an area 0. I could do a dotted decimal format as well. Either way, you could do whichever one you want. And then a redistribute connected. So pretty much absolutely identical, other than I don't need the IP routing. And then and then they went to VLAN 10 again, which is what they did down up here, and then assign that OSPF area to VLAN 10, right? So they assign the IP address and the OSPF area directly to the VLAN. In our case, a VLAN is a layer 2 entity, so we create a layer 3 entity, which is a router interface called VE, or Virtual Ethernet 10. We assign the IP address to the layer 3 interface, and we assign the OSPF area to the layer 3 interface. So our way of thinking about that is a VLAN is a layer 2 entity, so you don't assign an IP address and OSPF to a layer 2, but that's just a different way of thinking about it. So anyway, so this VE is belongs to that VLAN. Then lastly, they created a VLAN 20. They untagged B1 or slot 2 port 1, assign an IP address to it. Again, on our side, we create the VLAN 20. We untag unit 1, slot 2, port 1. We assign router interface VE20. We go into interface VE20, and then we assign the IP address to it. So because we did a redistribute connected, this is a connected interface, so even though it's not running OSPF, it's going to get advertised into OSPF because of that redistribute connected. But as you can see, other than the VEs and where we assign the IP address and the OSPF to, it is, again, a pretty much the exact same configuration. And then to save that configuration in both sides, on the Procurve side or the ICX side, you would do a write memory, which is going to take your running config and write it into your startup config. Okay, so that's it for today. Thanks for joining. Take care.